Hello everyone, and welcome back to Conspiraseed. On this day, the day before Halloween, I thought I'd do something a little special, kind of like I did with Christmas last year. I thought I'd cover a crime specific to the holiday. This week, we'll be talking about Ronald Clark O'Bryan, also known as the Candyman, or the man who killed Halloween, who is one of the reasons that people tell you to check your kids' candy before they munch away at it. So sit back, relax, grab a piece of candy, check it before you eat it. Thank you so much, as always, for choosing to spend some time with me today. And let's just get into it. Ronald Clark O'Bryan, referred to as just Ron for the rest of this video, was born October 19th, 1944. Ron lived with his wife Diane, their son Timothy, and their daughter Elizabeth in Deer Park, Texas. He worked as an optician, the person who fits glasses on a person once the optometrist has put in a prescription, at Texas State Optical in Houston. He was also a deacon at the Second Baptist Church, where he sang in the choir and also ran a local bus program. Running the local bus program, singing in the choir, and being a deacon, for all of you who are unaware, do not pay. Those are all volunteer positions. Ron was deeply in debt and had a reputation of being unable to hold a job. He owed over $100,000 and had 21 jobs in 10 years. At the time that he was arrested for his crime, he was on the brink of being fired for suspected theft. His car was about to be repossessed. He had defaulted on multiple bank loans, and his house had just been foreclosed on. Ron had become desperate for any way to lighten his load, and in January, he took out life insurance policies on both of his children for $10,000 each. Now this happened in 1947, so in 2023 money, he was about $625,000 in debt, and those life insurance policies that he took out on his children were worth about $62,500. In late October, Ron took out an additional $20,000 in life insurance for each child, or $125,000 in 2023 money. So in total, life insurance on both of his children was $60,000 1974 money, or $375,000 2023 money. Ron's wife said that she was not even aware of the policies on her children. Around comes Halloween Day, October 31st, 1974. Ron takes his children trick-or-treating in Pasadena, Texas. His neighbor and his neighbor's two children accompany them. They knock on the door to get some candy, but no one answered. The kids ran ahead to the next home to maximize their candy collection. They had to catch up since no one had answered the door. Ron kind of moseyed behind, and after he caught up to the group, he pulled out 5 of the huge 21-inch pixie sticks, claiming that after the children had ran off, the homeowner answered the door and gave them to him for the kids. He gave one to each of the kids with him, and once he was back into his home neighborhood, he gave the 5th to a child that he recognized from church. Before bed, his son Timothy asked to eat some of the candy that he'd gathered and chose the pixie stick as one of his treats. The powder inside was actually kind of clumped together, and Ron had to help him loosen the powder. Once Timothy tasted the candy, he said it tasted bitter and that he didn't like it. Ron gave his son Kool-Aid to wash the taste out of his mouth. Shortly after drinking the Kool-Aid, Timothy began to say that his stomach hurt, and he ran to the bathroom where he began vomiting and convulsing. Ron later claimed that he held his child while he vomited, and that the child went limp in his arms. Timothy O'Bryan died en route to the hospital less than an hour after eating the candy. As one would expect, the child's death from poisoned Halloween candy caused fear amongst the community. Numerous parents in the surrounding area turned in their children's candy to the police, fearing that it was laced with poison. The police did not suspect any wrongdoing initially, until Timothy's autopsy revealed that the pixie stick had been laced with a fatal dose of potassium cyanide. 4 out of the 5 pixie sticks that Ron said that he received from the man were able to be recovered by authorities from the other children, none of whom had eaten them yet. The parents of the 5th child became hysterical when they were unable to find the candy. However, once they checked their son's room, he was asleep holding the candy as he was unable to get the pixie stick open. According to the authorities, all 5 of the pixie sticks had previously been opened, the top 2 inches of candy had been discarded and refilled with cyanide powder, then resealed with a staple. According to a pathologist who tested the pixie sticks, the stick that Timothy had consumed had enough cyanide to kill 2 adults, while the other 4 sticks had enough to kill 3 to 4 adults. When asked, Ron said that he did not remember which house he got the candy from. This statement alone made police suspicious, as Ron and his neighbor had both told police that they had only visited 2 neighborhoods as it was raining that night. Police suspicion of Ron began to grow after they learned that none of the houses on the 2 streets had been giving out pixie sticks. After walking the neighborhood with the police 3 times, Ron all of a sudden was able to lead them to the house where no one had answered the door. Ron claimed that the owner of the home didn't turn the lights on, but did crack the door open and hand him the 5 pixie sticks. He said that he only saw the man's arm, and he described it as hairy. The home was actually owned by a man named Courtney Melvin. He was an air traffic controller at the William P. Hobby Airport and didn't get home from work on Halloween night until 11 p.m. Police shortly ruled him out as a suspect after over 200 people were able to confirm that he was at work that night. It was at this point in the investigation that police learned about Ron's debt and inability to keep a job. Upon further investigation, they learned about the insurance policies that he'd taken out on his children's lives. When talking to the insurance company, they also found out that Ron had contacted them the morning after his son's death, November 1st, to ask about how he could collect the policies he had taken out on him. After the police had learned that Ron had also visited a chemical supply store in Houston to buy cyanide shortly before Halloween, they began to suspect that Ron himself had laced the candies with poison, hoping to kill his children in order to collect their life insurance policies. He, however, did not buy any cyanide that day from the chemical supply store after learning that the smallest amount he could buy there was 5 pounds. The police believe that he used 5 pieces of candy in order to cover up his crime and make it less suspicious, because if only his children got pixie sticks that were laced with cyanide, that's very suspicious. The police had repeatedly questioned Ron, but he maintained his innocence. While police were never able to discover when or where he bought the poison, he was arrested for the murder of his son, Timothy, on November 5th. He was indicted on 1 count of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. Ron pleaded not guilty to all 5 counts. The trial began in Houston on May 5th, 1975. During the trial, a chemist who was an acquaintance of Ron testified that in the summer of 1973, Ron contacted him asking about cyanide and how much would be lethal. A chemical supply salesman also testified that Ron had asked him how to purchase cyanide. Friends and coworkers testified that in the month before Timothy's death, Ron showed an unusual interest in cyanide and spoke about how much it would take to kill a person. Ron's sister-in-law and brother-in-law testified that on the day of Timothy's funeral, Ron had mentioned that he was going to use the money from the insurance policy to take a long vacation and buy expensive items. Ron's wife also said that Timothy had not chosen the pixie stick as his treat to have before bed, but that Ron said he could have the pixie stick before bed and did not offer any other treat alternative. Ron still said that he was innocent of all wrongdoing, and his defense was mainly an older urban legend about a mad poisoner who hands out Halloween candy laced with poison or needles, or candy apples with razor blades. These stories have actually persisted despite the fact that there are no documented cases of strangers poisoning Halloween candy. The case and trial garnered national attention, and the press dubbed Ron the Candyman. Again, a cool name. Please, God, stop giving these killers a cool name. The Candyman? That's such a cool name. Why does the killer get it? Name this man Child Murdering Small Peepee Man. It's not hard. Do not name this man Candyman. Candyman is such a cool name. You could make a superhero called Candyman or a supervillain called Candyman, and it's so cool. And name him the Small Child Murdering Peepee Killer. On June 3rd, 1975, a jury took only 46 minutes to find Ron guilty of 1 count of capital murder and 4 counts of attempted murder. The jury then only took 71 minutes to sentence him to death by electrocution. Shortly after he was convicted, his wife, of course, filed for divorce. She later was able to remarry, and her new husband legally adopted their daughter, so things have a happier ending for her. At the time, men who were sentenced to death under Texas law were confined to the Ellis I Unit near Huntsville, Texas. According to the Reverend, who was the former chaplain who worked for the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, Ron was shunned and despised by his fellow death row inmates for killing his child, and was absolutely friendless. Good, dude, good. There is one thing that, a lot of even criminals dislike, and that's crimes against children. I don't know if you've ever read anything about, or saw any documentaries, but if you do crimes against children, they will kick your butt in jail. They will just beat you in jail. If you're a pedophile or a child rapist or something, they will kick your butt in jail. The other inmates, they're like, yeah, I killed someone, but you touched a child, and they just beat the crap out of you. And I think that's actually pretty cool. The inmates reportedly petitioned to actually hold an organized demonstration on Ron's execution date to show their hatred of him. His execution date was set for August 8th, 1980. His attorney was able to petition for a stay of execution, however. A second date was scheduled for May 25th, 1982. That date was also postponed. A third execution date for October 31st, 1982 came around, which is the 8th anniversary of the crime. The judge who passed it down actually offered to personally drive him to the death chamber. It was to have been the first time in Texas that someone was executed by lethal injection, as the method had changed from electrocution. The Supreme Court delayed the date yet again to give Ron a chance to pursue an appeal to seek a new trial. A fourth date was scheduled for March 31st, 1984. Ron's lawyer sought a fourth stay of execution on the basis that lethal injection was cruel and unusual punishment, and I actually don't understand that one. Lethal injection is like the least cruel and unusual way to execute someone in the United States, in my opinion. Like, firing squad, you're going to shoot them and then hope that they die, and then, like, if they don't, you just got to shoot them again, and they're in pain. Electrocution, it's like, and then they die, and that takes forever. And then, like hanging, if their neck doesn't break and they don't die right away, they're going to sit there and suffocate. So lethal injection, you fall asleep and then you're dead. That seems like the most humane way to do it. That is not cruel and unusual punishment. On March 28th of that year, a federal judge rejected the request. On March 31st, shortly after midnight, Ron was executed by lethal injection at the Huntsville unit. His last meal consisted of T-bone steak, French fries with ketchup, whole kernel corn, sweet peas, lettuce and tomato salad with egg and French dressing, iced tea, sweetener, saltines, Boston cream pie, and rolls. I was thinking about this when I was writing the script. I don't know how anyone eats a last meal. Like, my anxiety would be through the roof, just like about dying. Like, my last meal, I'd be like, just give me some like Powerade or something, dog, and I would just drink it because my stomach would hurt so bad I couldn't eat anything. Ron's last words were, "What is about to transpire in a few moments is wrong. However, we as human beings do make mistakes and errors. This execution is one of those wrongs. Yet, it doesn't mean our whole system of justice is wrong. Therefore, I would forgive all who have taken part in any way in my death. Also to anyone I have offended in any way during my 39 years, I pray and ask your forgiveness, just as I forgive anyone who offended me in any way. And I pray and ask God's forgiveness for all of us respectively as human beings. To my loved ones, I extend my undying love. To those close to me, know in your hearts I love you one and all. God bless you all, and may God's best blessings be always yours. Ronald C. O'Bryan. P.S. During my time here, I have been treated well by all TDC personnel. And personally, to me, it sounds like someone at the prison was like, you better say that we treated you well. Write that too. Put that down. Tell them we treated you well. Like, what a weird P.S. to put in. During the execution, a crowd of 300 demonstrators gathered outside the prison and cheered, while some yelled trick or treat. Others even showered anti-death penalty demonstrators with candy. Now, this part is hard for me to say, and I actually think is part of why the Supreme Court granted a stay of execution so that he could pursue an appeal to seek a new trial, because I'm not sure what evidence the court had against him other than circumstantial, as I wasn't able to find anything. As I mentioned earlier, they never could prove that he bought the poison or that he was ever in possession of the poison. They couldn't prove that he bought the pixie sticks. Like, there's so much that they couldn't prove that happened. Now, personally, of course, I think he did it, right? Like, based on all the circumstantial evidence, I think he did it. However, it's innocent until proven guilty. And I feel like there could be a shadow of a doubt if you can't prove that this man purchased the poison. You can't prove that this man ever had the poison. And you can't prove that this man was the one that put the poison into the pixie sticks. Like, you can't prove that he ever did any of that. And all the evidence is circumstantial. I don't know. In my opinion, I don't think you can sentence a man to death off of that. And I actually in a video next Monday that comes out, the Unsolved Mysteries Iceberg, I talk about that because there's a crime and the police are pretty sure they know who did it, but they only have circumstantial evidence, and so they haven't even accused him of anything. Again, I couldn't find any actual evidence, so maybe they did have better evidence than, he talked about cyanide and had life insurance policies on his children. Either way, that's the story of Ronald Candyman O'Bryan and the tragic death of his son. I truly hope you enjoyed this video. Thank you again for choosing to spend some time with me. Happy Halloween, and I'll catch you in the next one.